Hi, hello, namaskar. Today we are going to learn about the globe, latitudes and longitudes. Introduction. Our planet Earth is not a sphere. It is slightly flattened at the north and the south poles and bulge in the middle. While the Earth appears to be round when we viewed from the vantage point of space, it is actually closer to an ellipsoid. Earth is an oblate sphere. This means it is spherical in shape but not perfectly round. It is slightly bulged at the equator and is flattened at the poles. That's why the Earth shape is described as a geoid. Geoid means Earth-like shape. Now we are going to understand what is globe. The globe is a true model or miniature form of the Earth. A globe is a three-dimensional because it is spherical or ball shaped. It can be represent surface features, directions and distance more accurately than a flat map. Globes may be of varying size and type. Big ones which cannot be carried easily, small pocket globes and globe-like balloons which can be inflated and are handy and carried with ease. The globe is not fixed. It can be rotated in the same way as a top spin or potter's wheel is rotated. On the globe, countries, continents and oceans are shown in their correct size. The first globe was made by Martin Baham in 1492. Now we are going to understand how to locate a place on Earth. It is difficult to describe the location of a point on a sphere like the Earth. That's why we need certain points of reference and lines to find out the location of places. A needle is fixed to the globe in a tilted manner, which is called the axis. An axis is an imaginary line around which an object rotates or spins. 2 points on the globe through which the needle passes are two poles, the North Pole and the South Pole. The globe can be moved around this needle from west to east just as Earth moves. But remember, there is a major difference. The real Earth has no such needle. It moves around its axis, which is an imaginary line. Latitudes. Latitude measures the distance between north or south of the equator, while latitude lines run east-west across a map. Latitude indicates the north-south position of a point on Earth. Latitude lines begins at 0° at the equator. The parallel of latitudes extends from the equator to 90 degrees North Pole and 90 degrees South Pole. The distance between two parallel latitudes is 111 kilometers. Now we are going to discuss the equator in detail. The imaginary line running on the globe divides it into two equal parts. This line is known as the equator. The northern half of the Earth is known as the northern hemisphere, and the southern half of the Earth is known as the southern hemisphere. They are both equal halves. Therefore, the equator is an imaginary circular line and is very important reference point to locate places on the earth. All parallel circles from the equator up to the poles are called parallels of latitudes. Latitudes are measured in degrees. The equator represents the 0-degree latitude, since the distance from the equator to either of the poles is 1/4 of a circle around the earth. It will be measured 1/4 of 360 degrees, that is 90 degree. Thus 90 degrees north latitudes marks the North Pole and 90 degrees south latitudes marks the South Pole. As such, all parallels north of the equator are called north latitudes. Similarly, all parallels south of the equator are called south latitudes. The value of each latitude is therefore followed by either the word north or south. Generally, this is indicated by the letter N or S. The equator is the longest line of latitude. The equator covers 40,075 km, out of which 78.8% covers the water area, while 21.3% covers the surface area. As we move away from the equator, the size of the parallels of latitude decreases. Now we are going to learn about important parallels of latitudes. Besides the equator, the North Pole and the South Pole, there are 4 important parallels of latitudes. Let us discuss one by one. First one, Tropic of Cancer. It is also known as Northern Tropic, and the sun is directly over it at this position in June, when northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun to its maximum extent. The Tropic of Cancer is located 23.5 degrees northern hemisphere. The position of the Tropic of Cancer is fluctuating because of the longitudinal alignment. But the distance between the Tropic of Cancer and the Antarctic circles remains the same as they move at the same speed. The length of the Tropic of Cancer is 36,788 kilometers. Next, Tropic of Capricorn. It is the southern tropic which is currently at 23.5 degrees south. The length of the Tropic of Capricorn is the same as the Tropic of Cancer, that is 36,788 kilometers. The southern tropic covers 3% of the total world's population. The sun is overhead once a year in December and therefore experience the maximum heat, when the southern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun to its maximum extent. Next, Arctic Circle. Out of the 5 parallels of latitudes, Arctic Circle is northernmost circle, which is at 66.5 degrees north of the equator. The position of the Arctic is not always fixed. As per updates, the Arctic Circle is drifting towards the north at 15 km per year. The Arctic Circle is 16,000 km long, which covers 4% of the Earth's surface. Last one, Antarctic Circle. Antarctic Circle, the southernmost circle, which is currently at 66.5 degrees south of the equator. Like the Arctic Circle, the Antarctic Circle is also shifting southward at a speed of 15 km per annum. The Antarctic Circle is also 16,000 km long, which covers 4% of the Earth's surface towards the south. Now we are going to understand what are the heat zones of the Earth. The temperature zones are also identified based on the latitudes drawn from the equator to the poles. Temperature zones, also commonly known as the heat zones of the Earth, are different regions or areas where the rays of the sun fall differently, which leads to causing different patterns of climate. All temperature zones or temperature belts receives a different amount of heat at a given point of time, which causes summer in one part of the earth and winter in another part of the earth. There are three main types of heat zones on earth. Let us discuss what are the heat zones one by one. First one, the torrid zone. The torrid zone, also known as the tropical zone or the tropics, refers to the area of the earth that is located near the equator. The midday sun is exactly overhead at least once a year on all latitudes in between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. This area therefore receives the maximum heat and is called the torrid zone. The word torrid itself means very hot and dry. Therefore, it signifies that the torrid zones is a highly heated and humid place. The torrid zone has only two seasons, that is rainy and dry. The torrid zone covers almost 40% of Earth's total surface, as a very rich biodiversity of flora and fauna, and also consists of 40% of the total world's population due to its hospitable and variable climate conditions for human settlement. Temperate zones. The midday sun never shines overhead beyond the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. The angle of the sun rays goes decreasing towards the poles. This is the area between the Tropic of Cancer and Arctic Circle in the northern hemisphere and between the Tropic of Capricorn and Antarctic in the southern hemisphere. This area is having a moderate temperature. These are therefore called temperate zones. As this zone is located between the latitudes, it witnesses large temperature and climatic variations throughout the year. The temperate zone is further classified into the following climatic zones. These are subtropical climate, Mediterranean climate, oceanic climate, and continental climate. Next, we talk about frigid zones. This is the area between the Arctic Circle and the North Pole in the northern hemisphere and the Antarctic Circle and the South Pole in the southern hemisphere are very cold. The sun does not rise much above the horizon. Therefore, the sun rays are always slanting and provide less heat. These are therefore called frigid zones. This zone comprises icy weather conditions and is covered by floating ice sheets on the entire surface. The area under this zone are on high altitudes and are covered with snow throughout the year. The polar regions of the earth experience two types of climates. One is tundra climate and another one is ice cape climate. We will discuss what are longitudes. To locate any place on earth precisely, we must find out how far east or west these places are from a given line of reference running from the North Pole to the South Pole. These lines of references are called the meridians of longitude, and the distance between them are measured in degrees of longitude. Each degree is further divided into minutes and minutes into seconds. They are semicircles, and the distance between them decreases steadily polewards until it becomes zero at the poles, where all the meridians meet. All meridians are of equal length. We are going to understand what is prime meridian. The meridian passing through Greenwich, where the British Royal Observatory is located, is called the prime meridian. It is 0° longitude. From it, we consider 190° towards the east and 180° towards the west. Hence, prime meridian is the base of the world time. The 180° meridian separates the earth into two equivalent parts, the eastern and western hemispheres. Let us discuss one by one. Eastern hemisphere. The landmass of the eastern hemisphere is larger than the western part. Therefore, 80% of the human population survives in the eastern hemisphere. Eastern hemisphere is also termed as Oriental hemisphere. Eastern hemisphere includes much of Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, and the islands of Oceania. Western hemisphere. It is the west of the prime meridian that covers North and South America and some parts of Africa, Europe, Antarctica, and also Asia. The center of the western hemisphere is at the Pacific Ocean, whose nearest land is Genovesa Island. Therefore, the longitude of a place is followed by the letter E for the east and W for the west. It is, however, interesting to note that 180° east and 180° west meridians are on the same line. We will move on to longitude and time. The best means of measuring time is by the movement of the earth, the moon, and the planets. Local time can be reckoned by the shadow cast by the sun, which is the shortest at noon and longest at sunrise and sunset. The earth rotates 360° in about 24 hours, which means 15° an hour or 1° in 4 minutes. The earth divided into 24 time zones of 1 hour each, and each zone covers 15 degrees of longitude. As we move every 15 degrees eastward, local time is advanced by an hour. Alternatively, as we move westwards, time it reduces by an hour. For example, a traveler going eastward gains time from Greenwich until he reaches the meridian of 180° east, when he will be 12 hours ahead of Greenwich meridian time. Similarly, in going westwards, he loses 12 hours when he reaches 180° west. There is thus a total difference of 24 hours or a whole day between the two sides of the 180-degree meridians. Let us understand why do we have standard time. The local time of places which are on different meridians is bound to differ. A local time is a time calculated on the basis of a specific meridian passing through a particular place. In India, for instance, there will be a difference of about 1 hour and 45 minutes in the local times of Dwaraka in Gujarat and Dibrugarh in Assam. In India, the longitude of 82.5 degree east is treated as the standard meridian. The local time at this meridian is taken as the standard time for the whole country. It is known as the Indian Standard Time. We are going to understand what are time zones. Some countries have a great longitudinal extent and so they have adopted more than one standard time. It is therefore necessary to adopt the local time of some central meridian of a country as the standard time for the whole country. A local time is a time calculated on the basis of a specific meridian passing through a particular place. The France has 12 time zones. Because the unusual span is due to France's scattered national territories, the areas in French Polynesia in Pacific Ocean are mainly responsible for this. The two huge countries like Russia and United States of America have 11 time zones. The Russia is the only country in the world that has all its time zones over the mainland in Russia. Antarctica, the United Kingdom and Australia have 9 time zones.